It's time. Oh my god, I'm really excited. I'm really nervous, but I'm really excited because today is the day that I finally get to start ACOMAF. That's right, I don't actually know the title of this book, and every single time I just go ACOMAF. So if you weren't paying attention on my channel, 2 weeks ago I read ACOTAR for the very first time, which is the first book in this series by Sarah J. Maas. I told myself years ago when they were coming out that I was never going to read them, but I had some piqued interest when A Court of Silver Flames came out, and I had a few friends who wanted to read them, so I am buddy reading them with some fun peeps, and I am vlogging my entire experience. So this video will have spoilers for book 1 and book 2. I will be talking spoilery about both of them, and I'm really excited to be going into depth with them. So this is book 1, and this is what my tabbing looks like at the end of it. I am going to continue with my 3 tabbing system for book 2, but I'm going to be using slightly different colors. So my 3 tabbing system means that I have a color for love, I have a color for important, and I have a color for hate. So I'm going to keep with hate being yellow because that's easy for me to remember, and I don't really love this shade of yellow. I'm going to have green as my color of love, and I'm going to have blue as my color of importance. I went slightly more in depth in the first video of this if you want to know more. But get excited because this book is about to look a lot different. This is a big boy. I'm a little bit nervous. I have how many days to read this? I have about 8 or 9 days to read this, so as long as I read about 80 pages a day, I'm going to be set. Final thing I need to say before I actually start reading this bad boy is, because I never thought I was going to read this book, I did go online and watch spoilers for all of them, so I do know a lot of spoilers going into it, and I have learned after reading book 1 that a lot of the spoilers I know are actually for book 2, so I think after book 2 I'm going to know way less spoilers, although I'll know a few. I know some things going into this book. For instance, I already know that Feyre doesn't end up with Tamlin. I know that she ends up with Rysand. I know that I say Rysand's name really weird. It's okay, I'm not gonna change it, and you're not gonna convince me to change it, so stop asking. I know that chapter 55 is one that's going to blow my mind when I get to it, and I know a few other things, but I'm not gonna spend all day sitting here talking about all those things. Let's get to reading. So I've started reading, I'm 1 page in, and I can't believe I completely forgot to do this. So last book I made a prediction of what I was going to rate the book before I started, and I want to do that again because last time I actually got it on the dot correct. I thought it was gonna be a 3.5 and it ended up being a 3.5. So I am going to make another prediction. Before I started book 1, I thought that I was going to rate book 2 a 4-star, and I'm actually going to stick with that after reading book 1. I'm a little bit on the fence as to whether or not I actually believe that's going to happen. I felt like book 1 wasn't actually as good as I thought it was going to be. Like, even though I rated it the same that I guessed, it wasn't like as good of a 3.5 as I thought it was going to be. It wasn't at all what I thought it was going to be completely honest. So it is much later, and I feel like you're crooked. It is much later, and I am very tired. I'm gonna read 10 more pages tonight, but I'm gonna stop and talk to you now because it just feels like a good stopping point, and I think if I continue to read the next 10 pages, I will mentally not be able to speak anymore. So I'm at page 90 right now, so I'm gonna read until page 100. And I was really nervous starting this book because the past week I feel like I've been in a funk where I haven't been able to pick up anything that I'm really loving, and I feel like even though I'm on paper enjoying everything that I'm reading, I'm not enjoying the reading process, and I just know that it's a lot of things that I'm going through in my personal life, but I'm really loving this book. And if you're ready, I'm tabbing the literal shit out of this book. I can't even show you all of the crazy amounts of tabs that I have for this book because they're piled on top of each other. The first 34 pages, I tabbed the book 28 times. I stopped counting after that because it's literally so many. I'm tabbing more things than I'm not tabbing. And yeah, I'm tabbing things to say that I hate them, but for the most part, the things I'm hating are like, I'm loving that I'm hating them, you know? And it's just so good. Like, Sarah J. Maas figured it out. She is writing phenomenally here. Like, so much better than anything I read in Throne of Glass. Anything, well, I've only read Throne of Glass and ACOTAR so far. So this is great. It has angst, it has banter, it has like cruel, morally gray characters, it has characters that I hate to love and characters that I love to hate, and we're introduced to a lot of really powerful females in this book, and Feyre is like stepping it up and being so strong, and I'm loving her, and I'm loving her interactions with people, and I'm loving the moments where she's dead inside and she's fighting to feel something, and I'm loving the moments when she's feeling something and she's fighting that joy that she's feeling. Let's take a few steps back and talk about where I'm at in this book so you all know. So starting out at the beginning, Feyre is living in the Spring Court. She, at the end of the last book, was turned into a fae, and she's living with her fiance Tamlin. At the very beginning of the book, we flash back to when he proposed to her, and they are about to have their wedding. On the day of their wedding, Rysand steps up to the plate, and right before they basically say their I do's, he shows up and takes Feyre away because of their deal, which they made in the first book, which is that out of every 4 weeks, so every month, he will have her for 1 month at the Night Court. Feyre was, right before he stepped in and took her away, was thinking that she was gonna say no to Tamlin on the altar, that she couldn't go through with this and she wasn't feeling it and she was really scared. We saw the buildup of that throughout the book. We really saw her feel that way, and it wasn't like I was being told how she was feeling. I knew that's how she was feeling. I knew she was going to chicken out because of all the steps that she had taken up to this point. So Rysand takes her. Also, I need to pause. I don't know if I've said it in this video, but I know I say his name wrong. I know it. I'm not changing it. I'm sorry. It sounds funny, and every time I say it out loud, my brain actually fills in Rysand Beans, and it's like, who? Anyways, I also know I'm saying other people's names wrong in this book, but I can't be bothered to fix myself because who cares? Who really cares? It's letters on a page. Rysand Beans takes her to the Night Court, and he starts to train her how to read and how to protect herself, basically. And then after a week of being there, he drops her back home, and you really get to see that comparison of Feyre being in a toxic environment versus Feyre being in not necessarily a loving environment, but less so of a toxic one. Tamlin just really gaslights her and really shuts her up and keeps her from doing anything that will bring her joy or anything that will make her happy. She wants to help rebuild a lot of the people who their homes were destroyed. She wants to forget her past, and Tamlin basically is keeping her held up in his house, dressed up really fancily, preparing for the wedding, not letting her go off and do anything. And anytime she argues with him, he basically tells her to stop arguing and says that he's doing this because he loves her and he wants to keep her safe. And it's just so toxic. And then you see her with Rysand Beans, and he doesn't talk over her or tell her to shut up. And whenever she wants to fight for something that she really wants, he lets her have it. And last book, I complained about this one scene in depth about when Feyre first has her first meal with Tamlin, and he takes food away from her and tells her that she's eaten too much and that if she has any more, she's going to throw up. And we get to see this scene in this book where Feyre eats a meal for the first time in the Night Court with Rysand. And when she gets to the point where she's like slowing down, Rysand says, "Oh, have you had enough to eat?" And he like asks her. He doesn't just take things away from her. He lets her make her own decisions. Another comparison that I was seeing was in the first book, the clothing that Tamlin provided for her from the get-go before she even complained were these beautiful gowns and dresses and everything, and Feyre hated them. And in this book, he's forcing her to wear these things because she's supposed to be this symbol for the people, and he wants her to be a symbol of spring. And when she goes to the Night Court, she's also forced to wear things, but Tamlin at least gave her pants, which she loves wearing pants. It's something that she thinks about a lot. I'm not at the point where I'm forgiving Rysand Beans for what he did in book 1, and I'm still definitely mad at him, but there have been so many scenes in this book where I have been loving his interactions with her, because I think part of why I'm able to enjoy these a lot more is because of the change that we've seen in Feyre. In book 1, she was more submissive, she was kind of docile. The parts where she was really interacting with Rysand, she was letting him like walk all over her, and because of the trauma that she went through in book 1, she's no longer allowing that to happen. And I'm really loving this change in her where he will like come at her and she will come right back at him, and I think that's what I wanted from book 1. I think I might have been more okay with those scenes where he was being extremely inappropriate with her and forcing her to drink and forcing her to dance if she had come back at him, or if she had consciously made the choice to do this so that she could do something else. But this book, we're seeing that in her, and I'm loving her. I'm loving Feyre, and I never thought I was going to say that. Like I said briefly earlier, we are getting to see some other badass female characters. I don't want to talk about them right now, just because this clip has gone on long enough, but I think we're going to see some traitorous behaviors from some of them, and I'm really excited about that, just simply because I enjoy seeing multitudes of women and lots of varieties and lots of types of women, and I think it's okay to have some who are bad. And we saw a bad woman in the first book, Amarantha, whose name is hard to say, and I think we might be seeing some in this book. Ianthe, which I'm pretty sure that's not how you say her name, she definitely has something up with her. I love her. I think she's so cool. I want to see fan art of her, but I'm not looking up anything because I don't want to spoil anything for myself, but she sounds so cool. I am totally convinced that she is going to churn on us by the end of the book, or at least churn on Feyre, maybe like side with Tamlin. I don't fully know. I'm also not totally trusting Morgan, although I think she is badass, and I think that she might not have my trust for a different reason than Ianthe. I also feel like Lucien is just losing a little bit of his spine. I still really love him. I still think he's doing a great job. I still think that he is one of my favorite characters, but this whole entire idea of like he's just dealing with the repercussions of the end of book 1, and it's not in the right way. Normally I would take you through my tabs and discuss some of them in detail, but I am literally tabbing so much that I don't think I could consciously do that. Like, here's a spread where, let me show you, where I tabbed 5 different things, 2 here and 3 here. I know there's one page where I tabbed 4 different things, and some of the tabs were on top of each other. Is this it? Yeah. Some of these tabs are literally, I don't know if you can see the yellow super well, on top of each other, because I'm both loving and hating the things that I'm experiencing. Also, what's really interesting, final thought in this clip, there's a good chunk in the section that I read, like a good 20 to 30 page chunk where Tamlin isn't there, and I only tabbed 1 yellow in that section, and I've been tabbing a lot of yellows, and I'm starting to see them in relation to Tamlin, and I was noticing that in book 1 as well, because there is a chunk where you don't have Tamlin, and I didn't have many yellow tabs there. Ugh. I am a mess this weekend. I didn't do any reading yesterday, and then today I've sat down and read 150 pages, so I'm here, and I'm still tabbing like there's no tomorrow, although I did tell myself to slow down, and I don't know if you guys can see, but I can see a difference between here and here, but there were so many things I wanted to tab, and I just told myself, no, calm down, Amanda, like, the point of tabbing is so that you can find things easily and discuss them later. And with the amount of tabbing I'm doing in this book, nothing can be easily found, but a lot has happened, and I think it's time for me to come and talk to you all. Am I done reading for today? No, not by a long shot. I'm probably going to read at least another 50 pages. I'd kind of like to do more just because I'm enjoying myself so much. This book is a 5-star. I'm freaking loving it. It might even make it on my favorites of all time list. Like, if I hadn't been doing this challenge after reading book 1, I would have never continued on to book 2. Book 1 just didn't captivate me and didn't feel special in any way whatsoever. But book 2 feels so different and unique and well written, and all the characters are deep, and I love this book. I love this book, and I never thought I was going to be saying that. So let's go back to page 100 and see where I last talked to you. So Feyre visited Rysand, and then she went back to Tamlin. Tamlin was really pissy. Eventually she had to go back to Rysand and then back to Tamlin. And when she came back the second time, Tamlin had a fit and he blew up like the room that they were in. And she had commented when she first got there that she saw that he had like scratched one of the rooms to pieces while she was away because he had been so angry. And I tabbed that as a major dislike because it's so obvious to me when a character wants to, not just a character, one of the signs that someone is abusive but is just like slightly holding back from hitting you is that they destroy objects near you. And it was very obvious that that's what Tamlin was doing. And it feels like right now with how Lucien is acting towards Tamlin that he's like more afraid of Tamlin than he was in book one, where in book one he felt like he was like working alongside Tamlin, and now it just feels like he's afraid of him, and it's not a great look. But finally Feyre like stood up to Tamlin, and that's when he got angry, and that's when he destroyed the room, because she said that, I don't think she said she didn't want to marry him, but she basically said that she was having regrets and she wasn't sure that she wanted to continue on in this relationship, and he blew up. And then she locked herself in her room for a few days, and then when she came out, Tamlin was going to be leaving to go investigate some stuff that's happening on his property. And when Feyre saw him, she said she wanted to go with him, and Tamlin said no. And then they got into a heated fight because he was like, just basically stay here and look pretty. And she's like, I don't want to do that. I want to defend these people, and I want to do something, so take me with you. And he locked her in the house. He put this ward up that only she couldn't pass, so she couldn't leave the house. And she started panicking because it reminded her of her time under the mountain. And so she really was having a bad panic attack. And then Morgan, who is Rysand's cousin, showed up and saved her. And I loved that moment so much. It was so impactful and so strong and so powerful. And it was such a relief for Feyre to no longer be captured by Tamlin that I almost cried. I'm not gonna lie there. So she's finally with Rysand, and she's at his palace. She sleeps, I think, like a day or something, and then she wakes up to see him, and he's like, I have to go for a few days, but I'll be back and we can talk about what happened. You're free to stay here. You're free to go home. Like, you are not a captured prisoner here. This isn't part of your time where you're required to stay with me. You're able to do what you want. And she said that she wanted to go with him wherever he was going on this thing. And he said, if you come with me, you cannot return to Spring Court. You cannot divulge my secrets. You cannot go out and talk about what's going on. And she accepted, and she went with him. And that was such another powerful moment, because we had just seen Tamlin saying no to her going with him, and then trapping her and locking her up, and then having it compared to this was just so great. I'm not even at the part that I absolutely loved. So she went with him, and she found this city. Honestly, when I got to it, so I was reading and I was so into the book that I forgot that the book had parts, because the first one didn't. And then I flipped the page and it said part 2, the House of Wind. And I like got really confused for a minute, and I like flipped back and then like did it again, like as if it would disappear. And then I was like, okay. And so I flipped here, and then I flipped. There was a solid moment where I was just really confused by there being a part 2, even though I had known there was a part 1. He brought her to his home, which is the House of the Wind. Well, it's one of his homes there, and she's meeting all of his court and all of his people. And it's interesting because actually his court, I had already known about most of these people before reading this book. I knew these names, and I knew who they were, and I knew like their personalities and everything. So getting to meet them, I was like, oh, that's where these people are. Okay, really good, really good. Nice to know, nice to know. And they basically decide that war is coming and they need to stop it, because the war is not only going to destroy all of the Fae on this island, but also all of the humans everywhere. And no one wants that to happen. So they decide that they need to get some more information about a way to stop this like lord from coming and destroying everything. So Rysand and Feyre go to this creature called the Bone Carver, and he like lives in this prison, and it takes forever for Feyre to like get up the courage to do it. But when she does, like, Rysand is so supportive of her while she's trying to get to go there, because she even failed one time. Like, they showed up on the doorstep and she like couldn't go in, and so they like went back home, and like he didn't blame her or accuse her, and she was throwing up into the toilet like she used to do with Tamlin when she'd have the nightmares, and Rysand just sat there and like stroked her back and talked to her encouragingly and was like, you know, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do, it's okay. And it was just so different from how Tamlin had been treating her this entire time. And one of my biggest complaints about Rysand, actually my only complaint about Rysand in the first book, was the whole entire drinking and dancing scene. And we get a little bit more of a sneak peek into why he did those things and why he was forced into the position that he was forced into in book 1. And I get it, but I still really need him to apologize to Feyre, I guess, before I'm gonna be fully okay with him. Like, my heart is there and I'm loving this character. He's one of my favorite characters of all time. I get it now. I understand my dudes. I get it. But I also do need him to make, like, I understand he did horrible things to protect people, and Feyre understands that too, but I need him to still apologize to her for that, because I do, like, he was a prostitute basically for this queen, and then he forced someone into doing physical things with him, and like, he knew what it was like, and I know that he was trying to show off that he was a cold, heartless person, but now that Feyre knows the true side of him, I feel like we need an apology, but I don't think we're there yet where he's going to do it. So anyways, they went to meet this bone carver, and that scene was really cool because the creature has like a different face for every single person that meets him. I'm guessing his pronouns are he, him. I don't think they actually talked about it, but they always said him, so I'm gonna use it too. And so for Feyre, he like appears as this small child, and for Rysand, he appears as the human that killed Amarantha's sister, and who has been like captured. His soul has been captured in this ring, and right now we're trying to find this ring because we think that the Lord from the other island is going to bring, is it Jurian, back to life. There's a lot of things that have been happening over the last 150 pages, and I feel like I'm skimming them all really quickly because there's so much that I have to tell you about. It's crazy. Like, so much is just happening in this book, and it's great. Okay, so they find out from him that there's this book that's been split up and it's been divided across the land, and they need to go find these different pieces. So in order for Feyre to prove to Rysand that she can use her powers and that she has her gift of like finding things, I think, maybe, question mark, this part confused me a lot. He sends her to the house of this weaver who has one object that used to belong to Rysand, and Feyre basically has to sneak through the house without being caught by the weaver and find the item. She doesn't know what it is, but find it with her gift, grab it, and get out without being caught. And this scene was chilling. I was so freaked out the entire time it was happening. I had chills. I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I couldn't put the book down. I was sprinting with some friends, and I was like, y'all are gonna have to keep sprinting without me because like I am not pausing right now. I'm just going to be reading this part. And she gets to this hut, and it reminded me so much of like Hansel and Gretel, but there's this blind woman in the corner like spinning on like one of those spinning wheels. And when Feyre looks over, she realizes that she's spinning human flesh into like yarn. And then she starts going through the house, and she has to not make any noise, and she can't like bring anything with her that wouldn't have already been an object in the woman's house. So she can't bring like a bow and arrow or a sword, but she can bring a knife because the knife is something that the woman would have had in her home. And she finds the object, and right when she touches the object, oh my God, hold up, let me see if I can find the scene because it was chilling, and I was like so into what I was reading that I kind of stopped tabbing for a little bit, even though all of it was love. We get there, and then it was just done so well. I'm getting chills right now thinking about it. So right when she touches the ring, the spinning wheel slowed. I back a step towards the door, then another, slower and slower, each rotation of the ancient wheel longer than the last. Only 10 steps to the door, 5. The wheel went round one last time, so slow I could see each of the spokes. 2. I turned for the door as she latched out with a white hand, gripping the wheel and stopping it wholly. The door before me snickered shut. I lunged for the handle, but there was none. Window. Get to the window. Who is in my house? She said softly. Like, oh my God, just that was so well written. So, it's one of my favorite scenes I've ever read. It was bone chilling. And then there's this part where the weaver turned her face towards me. Wolf or mouse, it made no difference because I became no more than an animal, sizing up my chance of survival. Above her young, supple body, beneath her black, beautiful hair, her skin was gray, wrinkled and sagging and dry, and where eyes should have gleamed, instead lay rotten black pits. Her lips had withered to nothing but deep, dark lines around a hole full of jagged stumps of teeth, like she had gnawed on too many bones. Oh, and I knew she would be gnawing on my bones soon if I did not get out. Oh my God. It was so intense and I loved it. And so Feyre gets out, but the woman's not dead. Feyre gets out and they disappear, and they go back to Rysand's. Kind of gets mad at him. She agrees to some stuff, but she kind of gets mad at him, and she basically barges into his mind. And when she does that, she sees she sees this scene that he had been in with Iantha, which I still think is a great character. I love her for her character. I love her for what she adds to the story, but she is a horrible person. And it's great because the book like slowly makes you realize that with everything that kind of happens with her. And so you get to see this scene where she tries to seduce Rysand and he like basically doesn't have it, and it was an awful scene. I won't be reading any of it for you because it was so awful I don't want to say it out loud. Feyre starts to think back on how Lucien was acting around Iantha, and she starts to realize that some of the things that she saw in that scene were probably happening to him, and that he's not as powerful as Rysand, so he might not have like as strong of a way to defend himself against her. And I'm really hoping that that comes back up later because I really like Lucien and I really want him to be happy, and I want him to get out of Tamlin's grasp, even though I don't think he totally realizes that he is in Tamlin's grasp. So we get to find out a lot more about all these characters. There was a lot of backstory that I skipped over to get here that helps you understand like who we're dealing with and stuff, but I'm not going to get into all of that. I'm at the part now where Feyre has become Rysand's ambassador to the human world, and so she has shown up on her sister's doorsteps. And I literally had to pause reading because my mom called me right when she showed up on their doorstep, and she has like seen both of her sisters, but they really haven't spoken yet. I don't feel like sitting to do an update on the book. Let me go get it. Here's this bad boy. It's been a few days since I've spoken to you. As you can see, I have made some progress since we last spoke. I'm now on page 383. It's Thursday. No, what's today? It's Wednesday though. So I haven't made as much progress as I wanted to make on all of the books, and I'm wearing tight pants right now. I just got home from work. I need to sit and do some cooking. I might possibly be dropping off some food to my parents tonight. And honestly, I don't have a ton to say except that, okay, this is ridiculous. I can't stand while filming. I have been kind of slacking on this book the past few days. So last I spoke to you, it was Sunday, I believe. Are we crooked? Last I spoke to you, I think my doors are crooked. Well, that can't be right. Okay, I can't look at them anymore. Last I spoke to you, it was Sunday, and I had read 250 pages on Sunday, and a lot happened. I was really excited. I'm loving this book. I'm freaking loving it, but I think I burnt myself out by reading 250 pages in one day. And then I had Monday, Tuesday, and today have been just ridiculously busy with work and like after work events, and I just haven't been able to do much reading at all. And unfortunately, that just happens sometimes, and you gotta forgive yourself. I don't even know, what's 620 minus 380, 240 pages left in this book. So I'm gonna be able to finish it in time for when I wanted to have it finished. But for how much I think about this book when I'm not reading it, like I'm thinking about it all the time. I'm wondering about it, I'm thinking about it, I'm just thinking about it, I'm just thinking about it. And I just wanna read it. But then I get home, it's late because I haven't been getting home at like a reasonable time recently, but I get home, it's late, I'm tired, I want to eat dinner. It's like 8 o'clock. I'm already like wanting just to go to bed, but I need to make dinner and I need to eat, and then trying to read, you know, a little bit before I go to bed. And I'm like, 12 pages, that sounds good to me. Not much is happening in the last like 50 pages since I last spoke to you all. Instead of commenting on what's going on, let me tell you where I'm at. They are just about to meet the Mortal Queens. The Mortal Queens literally like showed up, and then everyone was like, oh, and then the chapter ended and I went to bed last night. I want to talk about some things that I forgot to talk about earlier in the book, specifically with Ianthe. One thing I was noticing that I think is kind of a double standard for her is that she's seen as this very sexual woman who like goes out there and gets what she wants. And I understand that she does it in a way that's not great because she basically forces herself upon people, and that's not good. We don't like that. That's not good. But I do think that she's kind of shown with this double standard because every single male character that is in this book. Maybe not Lucien, but every other male character in this book is like a sexual being who just goes out there and gets it. And he's seen as that being like completely normal because he's a dude. And I feel like, yeah, I get it. Ianthe like did some stuff that wasn't great. Like she showed up naked in someone's house, but like it feels like we're judging her. I feel like I want something else to be wrong with her for Rhysand to hate her as much as he does. Especially after we finished up with Amarantha being like a rapist and just going out there and getting what she wanted. I just wanted another female to not be blamed for the sex life she was having, especially with like Feyre being so open to sex and everyone like, yes, I love that. But like any of the other females in here, it just kind of feels like they're being judged. And I do get the difference, but I also don't get the difference. What's something else I wanted to talk about? How about we just pick a tab at random and we talk about it right now? This one is calling to me. That's not even the one I wanted, but here we go. Oh, this is a really cool tab. This is a great tab, actually. So this is something I did want to talk about. What are the odds? Like, you guys can see that there are literally hundreds of tabs in this book. How did I pick the one that I forgot that I wanted to talk about? So another thing I wanted to mention is that Rhysand actually did apologize to Feyre. He didn't say like, oh, I'm sorry that I forced you to drink and then dance on me. But he did apologize to her for the stuff that happened under the mountain. And I think that that was really important for me as a reader to see happen on page. Like he literally said the words, I'm sorry. And that like made me feel so much better. Like, yes, we've had all this development with him and we've understood his backstory, but I still felt like he needed to acknowledge that, yeah, he was doing something wrong for the right reason, but just because you're doing wrong towards someone doesn't mean that like you can just wash it off because you have a good reason to do it. You should still apologize to that person, especially if they start meaning something to you, like really important in your life. What's on my neck? Did I hit myself at any point in this video? I have been so out of it the past few days. Like, this is nothing. Tabbed a part in the book. No, I tabbed the, I'm sorry, that's not what I flipped to, but I tabbed the part in the book where he mentions that he didn't care that he necessarily had done horrible things. And he said, as long as the people who matter most know the truth, I don't care about the rest. So I felt like that was also a really important moment to see him like he's protecting all of the people that he cares about. And that's what's most important to him. And I understand and respect that. As long as he came and apologized, we're good, which he did. Let's pick another tab at random and talk about it because that was fun and I really enjoyed it. Let's pick something a little bit farther back. Maybe a green tab, not a blue one this time. I don't know why I tabbed this, but I like it, so I'm gonna read you the line. But if I was a monster, then I supposed Rhys was as well. Rhys and I were one and the same, beyond the power that he'd given me. It'd be fitting if Tamlin hated me too, once he realized I'd truly left. I know you can't see it because all the colors are kind of just blending together, but I haven't had a yellow tab in a while. I have had a few yellow tabs. There's like a few I've had, but they're not like huge point plots that I want to discuss with you all. So let's pick another one. I'll do a third one here and then maybe I'll do a few at the end because this is fun and I'm really enjoying it and I have no clue what we're gonna be talking about here. Let's pick one kind of near the beginning. Oh, this is fun. Here's a page with 4 tabs on it. At the top, there's a yellow tab and it's Tamlin talking to Lucien and all he said is, did I ask for your opinion? Which reminds me so much of In the Office when Stanley's like, did I stutter? And then down, there's a blue tab where Feyre first like looks through someone else's eyes in the room and she's like, oh shit, man, I can see through someone else's perspective. And then at the bottom, there's a yellow tab and a green tab right on top of each other because the yellow tab was Tamlin saying, we're not finished with this meal. And then Feyre responding back, which is the green tab, oh, get over yourself. Okay, what the hell is up with Rhysand's pockets? Like, okay, I made a joke about it at the end of my video for ACOTAR, but like, they have mentioned so many times that Rhysand has his hand in his pocket or that like he put his hand in his pocket, and I don't understand. If this doesn't go anywhere, I am going to be so mad. Like, it's to the point that I've started tabbing some of them because I'm just confused. And now it's been so many of those that I've stopped tabbing them because I'm like, there's too many. I can't keep tabbing this shit. I also have a second question, but we need to shift to answer this one. So I'm reading this book, right? And there have been a few times in it that Rhysand has flown with Feyre, like holding her. And I'm just really, really confused. Like my brain cannot picture how he's holding her. So I'm assuming they're facing each other, right? And because she can't be on his back because he has wings there. So they're facing each other. Unless they're both facing the same direction. No, because she just said her arms were around him. Okay, so they're facing each other. And he has his arms around her like back and like under her knees, I think. So she's kind of in a sitting position. So she like straddling him and he's holding her. Okay. Now, are they flying? This is my real question. Are they flying like this or are they flying like this? Because I can't picture. This takes so much core strength to do. Like, he's not only holding himself up like this, but her as well. But this just feels ridiculous. Like, picture him, his wings are coming out back here, and they're flying like this? I don't know which is worse, honestly. Like, okay, maybe they're going at like a slight angle, but then, that's still hard to hold her up like that. I have so many questions about just the logistics of the flying scene. I don't care about like how sexy it is or whatever. I know about stuff that's gonna happen later. Like, I get it. I am confused about the actual logistics of this. And if you legitimately know the answer to this question, please like comment it down below because I am so confused. I just finished chapter 42, which is the one where they go to the Court of Nightmares. Nightmares? Is that what it's called? Court of Dreams? I don't even know. It's when they go to the place and do the thing. I didn't even tab most of the chapter because all of it was just spectacular. I wouldn't even know what to tab. Okay, my book is here, but the light is here, so this is gonna be a funky reading because I'm about to read you guys some stuff. I'm heartbroken. Okay. So Feyre and Rhysand leave the party, the bits, everything, and then they kind of get into an argument outside, and I'm smiling because I'm in pain, and I enjoy when books put me in pain. So we get to the outside and they start fighting because Feyre says, "We knew what tonight would require of us. Please don't start protecting me. Not like that. He knew what I meant. He protected me under the mountain, but the primal male rage he just shown here, a shattering study splattered in paint flashing through my memory. I will never lock you up," Rhysand said, "force you to stay behind. But when he threatened you tonight, when he called you whore, that's what they'd called him for 50 years. They'd hissed it. I'd listened to Lucian spit the words in his face." Rhysand released a jagged breath. "It's hard to shut down my instincts." Instincts? Just like someone else had instincts to protect, to hide me away? "You should have prepared yourself better," I snapped. "You seem to be doing just fine until Keir said, 'I will kill anyone who harms you,'" Rhysand snarled. Now we're going to skip down a little bit farther. I'm shifting. My arm's getting tired holding you up. "You're my friend, and I understand that you're High Lord. I understand that you will defend your true court and punish threats against it. But I can't. I don't want you to stop telling me things, inviting me to do things because of the threats against me." And then Rhysand said, "I am not him. I will never be him. Act like him. He locked you up, let you wither and die. Stop comparing me to him." And then on the next page, they are still arguing, and Rhysand kind of compares it to like, I'm the villain in this story. Like, no one is going to read this story and think of me as the good guy. And then Feyre, bless her soul, I'm loving all of this snapback that she is giving. She says, "What about my story? What about my reward? What about what I want?" And then Rhysand says, "What is it you want, Feyre?" And she doesn't answer. And he says, "What is it you want, Feyre?" And she doesn't answer. And he says, "I thought so. Perhaps you should take some time to figure that out one of these days." And then she says, this is the only part of this argument where I don't 1000% agree with her. I mean, I do agree with her, but it was still a lot to be said out loud, and she thought so too. So she says, "Perhaps I don't know what I want, but at least I don't hide what I am behind a mask. At least I let them see who I am, broken bits and all. Yes, it's to save your people, but what about the other mask, Rise? What about letting your friends see your real face? But maybe it's easier not to, because what if you let someone in, and what if they saw everything and still walked away? Who could blame them? Who would want to bother with that sort of mess?" Oh my God. First off, okay. First off, Feyre is completely right. Completely right. If she doesn't want to be protected like that, she did the right thing and told him no, and he did the wrong thing by saying, well, I don't care. And then also, she was right. He was doing a fine job not protecting her and letting her fight her own battles, and then he got out of hand because of his own insecurities. And then he's also right by saying that she keeps comparing them. She keeps comparing Tamlin and Rysand. And then he's also right, or no, she's also right about the fact that she deserves to have her own story, that she's not a sidekick in Rysand's story, and he's not a sidekick in her story either. And then he also has a point, though, that Feyre doesn't know what she wants, but then she also has a point in saying that he hides himself behind masks because he doesn't want to be hurt anymore. Guys, I don't know how many tabs you can put on one page, but I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tabs on one page because they are right. Actually, I need that open to read you what I just read. What last happened? Oh, the dudes were, it's not called Under the Mountain, but it's basically Under the Mountain. The Court of Nightmares. They were there, they came back, they apologized, blah, 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 they fought. I told you that bit. And now they're going to the, I have literally no clue how to say this word, the Flying Magical People's Land, and training a little bit before they continue on to somewhere else. I don't know. I'm really not paying attention to the plot right now. I'm paying attention to all the other good stuff that's happening. I'm not gonna lie. So Lucien shows up and he's trying to take Feyre away because he's trying to return her to Tamlin because he's pretty convinced that Rysand has like messed with her brain because he has those abilities. And so he shows up and he says, we've been hunting you for over 2 months. We need to get you out of here. Tamlin's hasn't been himself. I'll take you right to him. And Feyre says, no, she doesn't want to go. Of course not. And then there's a little bit of conversation back and forth. And then Lucien says, you don't understand the mess we're in, Feyre. I need you home now. To which, in a little bit, Feyre thinks to herself, and maybe the world should learn that I did indeed have fangs, which comes in so beautifully in the next few pages. So Lucien argues, what did he do to you? Did he take your mind? Talking about Rysand. Later on, Feyre says, you gave up on me. You were my friend and you picked obeying him, even when you saw what his orders and his rules did to me, even when you saw me wasting away day by day. Lucien says, you have no idea how volatile those first few months were. We needed to present a unified, obedient front, and I was supposed to be the example to which all others in court were held. You saw what happened to me, but you were too afraid of him to truly do anything about it. I begged you so many times to help me, to get me out of the house, even for an hour, and you left me alone, or shoved me into a room with Ianthe, or told me to stick it out. And then Lucien says, and I suppose the night court is so much better, which Feyre says, when you spend so long trapped in darkness, Lucien, you find that the darkness begins to stare back. And then she pulls out her wings, and it's such an epic moment. I mean, she doesn't have like real wings, she can't fly or anything, but she had wings and it was awesome. And I love her in wings. I think that's such a good look for her. Sarah J. Maas officially is queen of the slow burn. Just like snaps for her. She did it well. There are 2 types of people in this world. There are people who have read chapter 55 of ACOMAF, and there are people who have not read it. And I am officially switching sides. Yeah, I just read chapter 55. I'm disappointed. I listen to me, hear me out before you go and type on your keyboard or get mad at me or click away. Please listen to me because I think I have good reason to be disappointed. I've known about chapter 55 for years now. Like since the book was published, I've known about that chapter. And I think that I kind of built it up into my head of something absolutely spectacular, amazing beyond belief. And like while it was a perfectly fine chapter, a perfectly fine sexy chapter, it wasn't the greatest thing that's ever been created. It never could have kept up with this picture I had in my head of the perfect chapter. So I think that's kind of where I got disappointed, because it was a really good sex scene, but I just couldn't love it because I kept expecting more and better and greater, because I was like, oh, this is the greatest scene that millions of people have ever read, then it's gotta be like better than this. And then I've known for a really, really long time about chapter 54 as well, and how painful it's going to be. I think I have like really, really good intuition. I know I have really good intuition. I know that I can foreshadow in books really well. I know that I am able to predict plots and twists and everything like super, super well. I'm basically a writer's worst nightmare because I'm sitting here going, that's all you've got? But I read all of chapter 54 and I was like, that's all you've got? That was what was supposed to make me feel sad and emotional and hurt? Rysand's literally just telling me his story. I already knew his story. I already inferred his story. Literally nothing in chapter 54 was new information to me as a reader. Like, but if we're going to talk about chapters that really affected me, we got to talk about chapter 50 to 53 because those made me really upset emotionally. Like they were supposed to, and I was affected by them. And I think maybe going back to what I said earlier, I was affected by them because I wasn't expecting it. I hadn't built them up to be this amazing thing in my head. Basically in chapter 50, Rysand is wounded, Feyre is helping him, and she traps the, I can't remember what it's called, but it's the Fae thing that like has to answer your questions, whatever you ask it, which felt like an ex machina moment. I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't super happy about that thing coming back because it's just like, oh, she just captured it so easily and then it told her all the answers and then, oh, it slipped on something else and it slipped and it told her that her and Rysand are mates, which is like beyond husband and wife. It's like the universe is telling you you have to be together. So let's hope the universe doesn't pick out a dick for you to be with. So she gets really mad because Rysand's known for a long time and hasn't told her, and then she abandons him. She literally leaves him and goes off for 5 days and sulks in a cabin in the woods. And that really upset me because she's supposed to be the person who cares about him, even if she doesn't believe in the bond, which she does. But even if she didn't, she still said that he was her friend and that she cared about him. And when something came up, she didn't sit and talk with him about it. She ran off to be alone. And I'm fully understanding that sometimes it is best for people just to go off and be on their own. I definitely enjoy like being off on my own, dealing with my problems, everything, whatever, and then coming back with like a clear mind once I've thought about it. But I don't understand why she was angry. Like, I'm still sitting here thinking like, okay, he didn't tell you, but he didn't tell you because you were engaged to Tamlin and you were happy and he didn't want to ruin your happiness. He was literally willing to be miserable so that you could be happy. And it wasn't like he was never going to tell you. He was trying to tell you when he got shot down, but you're just going to not even listen to anything he has to say. I'm way more upset about this than I am about chapter 54. And honestly, like, chapter 55 was fine. It was absolutely fine. I finished the book. I'm gonna need some time away to think about that. I'll probably come back and talk to you guys tomorrow. That ending infuriated me. Okay, it's the next day, and honestly, I should have just spoken to you all last night because now it's Shadow and Bone release day, and this is quite literally the last thing I want to be doing. In case you're curious, I'm 3 episodes in, but we won't be talking about that at all here. First things first, yes, I did finish the book yesterday. Yes, I told you that I finished the book yesterday. I was really, really disappointed in the last 70 pages. Not because they didn't go in the direction I wanted, or not because they were like really painful to read or anything like that. I just felt like they were really poorly written, and I feel like they weren't good. And after having read this book and been pretty much in love with it through most of it, for the end just to have me kind of like meh, I was really disappointed. I do have quite a few yellow tabs at the end, but this is how my book ended up looking. I have no clue how many tabs are in this book. I will not be counting them, but I will be showing you something kind of interesting. So I went through not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, 4.5 green tabs for this book. As you can see, I dropped one. I didn't go through a whole completed yellow one, but I did end up switching through. So I think I did in the long run complete a whole yellow one because I just started using whichever one I was on. And I did use blue tabs from 3.5 of them. So I went through quite a few tabs in this book. I don't know how many that is. You all can do the math if you're super curious, but I don't want to know. enjoyed my reading experience of this book. Honestly, beyond those last 70 pages, it was an amazing book. Sarah J. Maas did a really good job with it. I feel like she stepped up her writing game, which is what you're supposed to do with every new book that comes out, right? You're supposed to get a little bit better, and she definitely got better in this one. I just wish that the ending... I'm spoiling things in this video, so let's talk about some spoilers really quickly about the ending of this. So where I left off, our two main dudes are in love. They're mated for life. They decide they have the book. They're gonna go destroy the cauldron. When they show up to do it, it's a trap. Oh no, of course, because that was really predictable. And then Tamlin shows up, and he has basically been working with the Lord of whomever and is convinced that Feyre is hiding, or that Rhysand has trapped her mind, so she pretends to break her mind right after her two sisters get turned into Fae, and then she returns home with him pretending, and really she's the High Lord of the Night Court or something. I don't know. I feel like that was a really bad explanation, but honestly, I don't want to think about the ending. Yeah, I'm happy that like Nesta is now Fae. I love Nesta, and I'm really excited to see her like badassery in the next two books. But other than that, I honestly like couldn't care less about anything that happened in the last pages. I was unemotional to them. But saying all of that, I kind of was contemplating for a while what I should rate this book, just because like it's so good, but the ending like really made me mad. So I finally decided on, I am going to rate it 5 out of 5 stars. I'm going to actually do that. I do think that it deserved that, but because of those last 70 pages, it will not be added into my favorite books of all time list. I was going to do it until those ending pages. I feel like there is a difference for me between a 5-star and a 5-star on my favorites forever list. It's kind of like a little extra kick towards a 5-star. It's almost like I rate things on a 6-point scale, and putting them on my favorites list is like adding that final point. But this one didn't quite make it for me, so I really enjoyed it though. I would definitely reread this again in the future. I would definitely recommend this to people. It's a shame that you have to get all the way through book 1, which is kind of a letdown to get to this one, but it made me really excited about reading book 3 and book 4. I'm kind of a little bit not confident about how I'm going to feel about book 3, but I think I'm going to really enjoy book 4. So stay tuned. Over the next few weeks, I will be reading those books, and I will be making videos on them. I did promise you all one more random tab at least, so I will do one more. And if you really love the random tabs as much as I'm loving them, I think it'd be really fun to do a video where I could just read you all some random tabs. Maybe not even just from this book, maybe from all the books I own, because dude, sometimes I tab random things. So should we want someone closer to the beginning or closer to the end? I feel like end is a good one since I've already kind of done some elsewhere. So let's just kind of pick like here and see if that landed us anything. Nope. There's a large section at the end that has no tabs. So let's just go to the next closest one, which is, oh, I can't really read you that one because I tabbed, as you can see, I tabbed on the little marking, which means that I hated the entire section. Cool. Let's go to the next one. Oh, this is when this is when Rhysand was like bleeding to death in the cave. I'm not gonna think this down. And he needed to drink her blood, and after he's cured, they're arguing about the fact that he didn't tell her that they are mated, bonds, pair, whatever. So he said at one point while they were arguing, you were in love with him, you were going to marry him, and then you were enduring everything, and it didn't feel right to tell you. And I tabbed that as green because I really respect his decision, and I think he did the right thing. And the fact that Lucien, like, okay, you know what? We're going to keep arguing. We're going to keep fighting. Lucien at the end didn't have the respect for Elaine. He just came out of nowhere and was like, oh, you're my mated bond. Like, there is a room. Learn to read it. Like, Lucien, I didn't know your name was Feyre because apparently you can't read. What? Like, he seriously, like, she just got turned into a Fae. She is traumatized. She is like drowning, like coughing up water on the floor. Her sister is about to be turned into a Fae. They're basically being tortured mentally, physically, whatever. And he just is like, oh, this is the time for me to tell you that we're mated. No, take a cue from Rhysand and wait until the appropriate moment. I don't care if Feyre was mad at him. He did the right thing. Okay, I'm still really mad about this book apparently. I think that's like the best feeling in the world though, when you get like really emotional about a book, even if it's anger, because then you can just sit there and yell about it. And yelling about a book is such a good stress reliever. I'd love to talk about this book more with you down below, but right now I am going to go because it's Shadow and Bone time, my dudes. I can't wait. But thank you for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you. Let me know down below if you have read this book and what your thoughts and opinions are on it. I guess you can be as spoilery as you want because I spoiled things plenty in this video. So no spoiling later books though, please. Thank you. I appreciate that. And until next time, I don't remember how my outro goes, but I'll talk to you in the comments. Bye.